there, Jo here with another Time for Tea Designs tutorial. Today's card was made during our Facebook Live on Thursday the 16th of July, so seems like a long time ago now, but we've been so busy preparing for the new release, which I'm sure you'll have seen some of our sneak peeks for, that it's taken me a while to get this video processed, but we're here now. And I'd asked on our Facebook friends page, which if you've not yet joined up for them, please do. You'll find the link through our regular Facebook page. And I asked the guys on there what they would like me to create with during this Facebook Live. And the vote was for the Hooray Hamsters. So that's what we're going to do. And I do already have some of those little critters already coloured up from a previous project. So you'll see here that I'm just popping together my card base, and I'm using an A6 top folding card base. And I've already cut out my back panel using the Say Cheese cover plate die, which is a really cool die and can be used for lots of different projects. So I'm going to use that as the basis of my focal panel today. And I'm going to stamp this, a pattern on the back of this using the new A7 Squiggly Giggly stamp set. So I'm going to use some of my Twisted Citron Distress Oxide ink, I believe I used, to make this really pretty fresh green pattern on the back of my card base. And one of the guys that was viewing the video at the time, Amy, she suggested that I pop a piece of cardstock underneath the cover plate die cut so that it would perhaps create a pattern on both pieces. But that didn't quite work, but it did protect my the foam on my stamping platform. So it did work in one respect, but not the way that we intended. So one thing I should just mention while I'm stamping up my background, because I'm going to have to clean it off and then reposition it onto my card base here and then stamp that again, is that stay tuned to the very end, because during the live, it was suggested that we give away this card as a prize. So I will be asking you a question at the end of this video that will allow you to win the card that we make in today's video. So I'm continuing to move my stamp down the length of my card base, and I'm just stamping that with that Distress Oxide ink a couple of times to make sure that I've got a nice crisp impression. So moving on now to the background, so the piece that will be behind my my die cut, and I'm going to be blending some ink directly onto my card base. So the card base that I'm using is one of our own here at Time for Tea Designs. It's a really super smooth, really good quality cardstock, so it's perfect for stamping straight onto our card base. So I'm just going to use a combination of scattered straw, some squeezed lemonade, and then some Twisted Citron, just to fill in that background and just create a little bit of a gradient from that yellow to a really bright yellow, and then this lovely lush zesty green. I do love the Twisted Citron. I think it's a really, really fresh colour, and it works perfectly for our colour scheme today. So I'm just showing there how I've got that nice gradient of colour, and I know some of that's going to be covered up with our back panel, but it's really nice to be able to get that really nice effect and be able to see that through the circles that we've created. So I'm just going to trim my panel down ever so slightly, because I want to be able to see some of that cardstock going through the back around the edges, of the card base. And you can see here I'm having a little bit of difficulty just trimming off that bottom piece, so I've used some of my washi tape just to secure that to the trimmer so that I can get a nice clean cut, and I'm not going to bend my card there. So like I mentioned before, I have already stamped up some of my images. So those little hamster images have already been stamped up and coloured. So what I will do is I'll just add a link here to a previous video where I've coloured these little hamsters, and you'll be able to see how I've done that before. But to save time during the video, I'm just using those pre-coloured images, and I'm going to stamp up some extra images as accessories for to build our scene. So I've stamped out there the little sign, the balloon, the party hat, and the tie. And I do love this set and the tie that's in this set, because I think it just looks really, really cute on the hamsters, to be wearing a little business-like tie, as if they're going to work or to a job interview, and it fits really well with the sentiments that are in the set as well. So I'm stamping this onto some super smooth cardstock with my Memento Tuxedo black ink, which is Copic friendly, and I'm going to colour this up with my Copic markers. So I've picked out a series of my Copics that will match the colour scheme that we've already selected for our background. And you can see there that I've already had a little play with where I want to position things onto my card front. And I have my card base next to me as a reference from a colour perspective, just so that I know the colours that I'm using are going to coordinate with that background. So I'm just using, like I say, a combination of these really fresh greens and yellows. And then for the posts on the signs, I'm using the combination of two of the brown shades. So the E34 and E35, which coordinate really nicely with the little hamsters that we've already coloured. I like to test out my Copics just on the side of my cardstock before I use them, because sometimes with the Copic markers, the numbers don't necessarily match up with what you think the colour you're going to get. So I would perhaps imagine that a greater number would mean a darker colour, but that doesn't always correspond. So for example here, the YG03 is a darker colour than the YG11. So that's why I always like to test those out first. To stamp an image onto the middle of my sign, I'm actually going to use some Distress Oxide inks so that they're a little bit more tone on tone. I just thought that would be a nice effect, a little bit more subtle than using just traditional black, because I want my my main sentiments to stand out rather than the ones that are on the sign. So this means that they're still really effective, but they don't take anything away from our main sentiments, which we'll come to later. I've used the coordinating dies here to cut out all of my images, and I do love coordinating dies for cutting these out. It makes for a really nice crisp cut, much better than I would be able to do if I was fussy cutting. And you saw there that I had already pre-cut some of the little sesame seed stamps, pre-coloured some of those, and I just die cut those as well so that we could use those for the front of the card. I'm just preparing some black cardstock here for our main sentiment I mentioned before, and I'm going to do some heat embossing. So I've prepped that surface with some of my anti-static powder, and I'm now going to use some of the Wow embossing ink to stamp those sentiments out. And I'm going to do that a couple of times just to make sure that I've got a really nice clear impression and that my cardstock is nice and wet, because I want it to take all of this powder. So I'm going to use some, I think this is Thirsty Brush actually, some of their bright white embossing powder, which is really nice embossing powder. And then I'm going to apply some heat with my heat tool and set that powder in place. I'm using a combination of two different dies here just to cut out those sentiments, because again, I'm not very good at cutting straight lines myself with my trimmer, so I do like to use my dies wherever possible. So these are a combination of dies that we have at Time for Tea Designs, but you can find a banner die in the new mini frame and banner die set that's in store. So I'm just attaching all of those little additional accessories to our hamsters that we'd already coloured. So I'm adding the sign to one of those hamsters and the little party hat. I've added the little tie, which is so cute, and another sign, and then another party hat to the other hamster. And we will attach the balloon to that hamster in the end. I'm using some foam pads just to attach that die cut panel over the top, and now it's just a matter of arranging our little hamsters, figuring out where they're going to sit and how I'm going to attach those, because I wanted this little hamster here to sit in the little hole as if he was peeking out. So I'm going to use a combination of my foam pads, but also a little bit of liquid glue just to stick him in there so that he looks like he's peeking out. So that will give him a little bit of dimension to his head and to that sign, but then his little feet will stick in the gap behind that little hole. This little guy here, I'm just going to use some liquid glue as he's going to sit on top. And the other little hamster, I had already popped on a little bit of foam tape, I think possibly because he was for a previous project that I didn't use. And because I'm going to sit him in that little hole at the bottom there, I've reinforced the bottom of him with another piece of foam just so that he doesn't collapse into that space. Some foam tape to the back of one of our sentiments will sit in the top right-hand corner. And then I'm just thinking about balance here. So I really wanted to create a little bit of balance with our sentiments. So the way that I'm doing that is by adding those sesame seeds in the middle. And that just creates a nice little bit of a journey through your card from one corner from one side to the other side and then back again. And that takes us through our little scene. And finishes with that sentiment, "That's how we roll." Using a little bit of liquid glue there to attach those sesame seeds. And I did the same with that strip of sentiment at the bottom as well. I've just applied that with some of my liquid glue. So to add the finishing touches, I'm using my Jelly Roll pen, which you know I tend to do on most of my videos. And I just think that this does add a little bit of something extra, a little bit of extra dimension and highlight, and just gives that a really nice illustrated view. A few stripes to that tie just finishes that off nicely. And then the final touch is going to be to just add a little bit of gloss to our balloon. I think the Glossy Accents is a great tool for just making those balloons come to life, and I couldn't resist adding a little bit to those sesame seeds as well. So that's our card complete today, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. It's a really bright, fresh summertime card. And just to show you the rest of the set here very quickly, this set does come with some great images, but also some really great dies. So you've got the die there that will cut out your spinning wheel, and those longer dies that you see in the background there allow you to create a penny slider. So it's really fun to create a card where your little hamster can spin along on his wheel. So now on to our giveaway. Here's how you can win the card that we made in today's video. The question is, what was the stamp that I used to create the pattern on the background of my die cut piece? So what is that stamp that we used to create that pattern on the cover plate die cut? Really easy question. If you've watched the beginning of the video, then you'll know the answer to that. And all I need you to do is leave your comments and your answer below this video, and we will pick a winner at random later on in the week. Thank you so much for watching today. I really hope you enjoyed the video and that you liked the card. If you do, then please do like and subscribe to our channel, as it really does help us create more content. And we'll see you again in another video really soon. Thanks again. Bye-bye now.